in musicology, one always has problems of ambiguity because of the nature of the sources. And I'm going to address today a problem that we often come across in musicology. Sometimes we have an abundance of primary source materials for a site which has gone or is damaged. Other times we have a paucity of evidence for a very well-preserved site. And the site in question is one of these latter types, namely St Andrew's Church in Heckington in Lincolnshire. This is a very fine, mature Gothic church built in the second quarter of the 14th century. It's very complete, it's not suffered too much damage, and it was built in a very short time. So this is in many ways the supreme model of the Victorian Gothic Revival church. This is the sort of acme of perfection. It's famous for being complete. It's also famous because it's got one of a handful of complete Easter sepulchres which were used during Holy Week when Christ was ritually buried and then resurrected on Easter Sunday. It has lost its rood screen, which is a pity because it would have been a very interesting example of its kind. And so this church is an interesting opportunity to undertake a partial reconstruction. We don't have to reconstruct the whole building, but we can focus on specific architectural or ritual nodal points. And it gives us opportunities to investigate performance. The Visitatio Sepulchri, which happened on Easter Sunday, which is poorly documented. We know that it happened but everywhere, but there are very few descriptions of it. Also, another ceremony that we've investigated is the singing of the St Matthew Passion on Palm Sunday, which was sung in the rood loft. So it's a sort of spatial performance-based investigation of the church. The church begs interesting contextual questions. How did a small village community afford such a big church? It was paid for by one of its rectors, who was a chaplain of Edward II. So it was a gift to the community. But how did they maintain it, and how did they service it liturgically? It is poorly documented. There are not many historical source materials, so one needs to reconstruct using typologies. What is this church like? What might one reasonably expect it to have had by way of chantries and other endowments in the Middle Ages? And finally, for this slide, there is a societal context. The parishioners, the local community of Heckington, want to get money from the Heritage Lottery Fund to repair their central heating. And as part of this, in order to get this money, they need to do outreach programs, increase visitor numbers, develop ways of enriching the church as a visiting experience. And this is where we come in, colleagues at Nottingham, Birmingham and Newcastle. This involves chiefly my colleagues from Newcastle's Culture Lab. Slide, please. Thank you. My first plan was to go for a full Oculus Rift reconstruction job with all bells and whistles. But my Culture Lab friends said, no, go for something more selective and go with the grain of what we find here in Heckington, which is a very engaged community. So this project isn't about the product, it's about the social process and the social legacy that it involves. So in many ways it's a gift because we have a local stakeholder group who would like to sustain the project after its lifespan. And so, for instance, we see the local art club or the bell ringers. There are local choirs, there are schools and local heritage groups and members of the local church parish. So it's an interesting multi-dimensional social engagement. And the academic colleagues involve composers, creative practitioners in general. So here you see my colleague Tim Shaw doing a PhD using miniaturized belfry Alan Adams, who's my main collaborator, who's an architectural illustrator. He and I have had very extended discussions on what the rood screen would look like, what the interior of the church would be like. And finally, performers, chant scholars, liturgiologists from a range of venues. And our job is to try out, won't be long, different liturgical scenarios as they would have worked in that church. And we see here, not very clearly, a series of sketches which Alan Adams and I devised to try and fit a late medieval rood screen in this place. It's a very atypical space, and it seems to have been highly designed as a machine for worship. There's a lot that I could say about the rood screen, but which I won't. Suffice to say, we're using line drawings to make manifest, to make transparent the degree of intervention that we've made. So we're trying to declare openly that this is a historical research project. And finally, well, there's a picture of the inside of the church with a choir book lectern which we use for performance purposes, but that's for another occasion. Thank you.